My name is Naomi Carter. I'm 32 years old. The night I found out my fiancé and my older sister were sleeping together, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even ask a single question. I just watched. Up until that night, I would have told you my life was steady. Not perfect, but solid. Ethan and I had been together 4 years, engaged for 7 months. The wedding was 12 weeks away. The venue was booked. Deposits paid. 216 people invited. And my sister, Lana, was supposed to stand next to me as my maid of honor. She had cried during my engagement party speech, held my hands, told me no one deserved happiness more than I did. She looked me in the eyes when she said it. She had already been sleeping with him for 3 months at that point. I just didn't know it yet. I found out in a place that wasn't dramatic enough to warn me. A parking garage, 2 miles from our apartment. I had left my work bag in my car and needed something from it. It was late, quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your footsteps echo just a little too loudly. I wasn't even thinking about anything important. Just work, dinner, whether I had enough time to stop somewhere before heading home. Then I saw a car I recognized. Ethan's, parked on level 2, which didn't make sense. He had no reason to be there. None. He worked across town. Our apartment was in the opposite direction. I stood there longer than I should have, just looking at it. Like if I stared long enough, it would rearrange itself into something logical. It didn't. I went to my car, got my bag, closed the door, and then I didn't leave. I don't know what made me do it, but I went back up to level 2, took a photo of his car, made sure the license plate was visible, the timestamp clear. It felt automatic, like my body already knew something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. I sat in my car for 45 minutes. No music, no phone, just the low hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional echo of tires somewhere above me. At exactly 11:23 p.m., the elevator doors opened, and they walked out, together, holding hands. Lena saw my car first. I know she did, because she stopped walking. Not abruptly, just enough. A hesitation. Ethan didn't notice for another 2 steps. Then he stopped too, and the 2 of them stood there, in that yellow, artificial light, looking at my car, trying to decide if I was inside. I was. I didn't move, didn't breathe any differently, didn't reach for my phone. I just watched. Because something inside me had already shifted. Something quiet. Something final. They chose to keep walking, like nothing was wrong. Like the world hadn't just tilted. They walked to his car, got in, sat there. 4 minutes. I counted. 4 full minutes of silence between them. Then the engine started, and they drove out. He drove right past me, close enough that I could see his face. He didn't look at my car. Not once. Just straight ahead. Like if he didn't acknowledge me, I wouldn't exist. I got home before Lena did. Sat on the couch, still wearing my shoes, still holding my bag. 20 minutes later, she walked in. Calm. Relaxed. Like she had just come from anywhere else in the world. Hey, she said. Hey, I answered. I was at Rachel's, she added, setting her keys down. She's having a hard time. Needed someone to talk to. Rachel. Of course. There's always a Rachel. I nodded. Oh, that's too bad. I hope she's okay. Yeah, she said lightly. She will be. Then she leaned down and kissed my cheek. Soft, familiar, practiced, and walked into the bedroom. I sat there and listened to the shower start. Water hitting tile, steam filling the air, the sound of someone washing off a night that didn't belong to them. That was night 1 of 11. I didn't confront her. Not that night. Not the next morning. Not even when she smiled at me over coffee like nothing had changed. People always ask why. Why stay quiet? Why not explode? Why not demand answers? Because the moment you confront someone, the truth stops being yours. It becomes a negotiation. Explanations. Excuses. Tears. Versions. She would say it didn't mean anything. He would say it was a mistake. My family would get involved. Sides would form. And somewhere in all of that noise, the clean, simple truth would disappear. I didn't want their version. I wanted mine. So I watched. I documented. And I waited. On day 2, I ordered a camera. Small. Discreet. The kind you don't notice unless you're looking for it. I installed it in the living room. Not because I needed proof anymore. I already had that. But because I needed something that couldn't be explained away. By day 4, I got it. She came home at 9 p.m. Said she'd been working late. I nodded. Told her the office had called around 7 looking for her. She didn't miss a beat. Stepped out for coffee, she said. Of course she did. She went to shower. Her phone buzzed on the table. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. The camera had audio. And when the message preview played through the speaker, I heard his voice. Ethan. Soft. Casual. 4 words. You get home safe? 4 words. At 9 p.m., after she told me she was working late. That's not a message you send your fiancé's sister. Not after a normal day. Not if there's nothing to hide. I sat with that for 2 more days. Let it settle. Let it become something solid. Something undeniable. And then I started planning the dinner. The engagement dinner had already been scheduled for weeks. 43 people, both families, close friends. A private room in a restaurant Lena had chosen because she said the lighting was beautiful and the projector screen would make the photo slideshow feel romantic. She was right. That was the part that almost made me laugh later. How often beautiful settings get wasted on ugly people. She had built the slideshow herself. 2 full weekends spent sorting through 4 years of photos. Beach trips, birthdays, holiday dinners, random Tuesday mornings that looked tender in pictures and hollow in memory once I knew what I knew. I let her finish every second of it. I let her smile at me from the couch while she adjusted transitions and music. I let her ask, "Do you think this one is too cheesy?" And I told her no. Because by then I had learned that the cruelest part of betrayal is how ordinary it looks while it's happening. It never arrives wearing a costume. It arrives in familiar voices, in shared calendars, in someone asking if you want takeout on the way home. I didn't tell anyone. Not my best friend, Ava. Not my cousin Marcus, who usually knows everything before I've even finished deciding how I feel. No one. Because the moment another person knows, you lose control of the edges. And I needed control. Not because I was numb, because I was barely holding myself together. There's a difference. People romanticize rage. They think heartbreak looks loud. Mine looked organized. Mine looked like legal pads and folders, and a voice so calm it scared even me.
Yeah.
Before I changed a single thing in the slideshow, I called a lawyer. A woman named Denise with a clipped voice and the kind of patience that belongs to people who deal with mess for a living. I explained the situation without drama. My fiancé, my sister, evidence, upcoming wedding, joint account, venue deposits, ring, apartment. I remember how quiet she got when I said, "I'm not calling to ask whether I should leave. I'm calling to ask what I need to protect before I do." She didn't waste time pretending this was about feelings. She answered exactly what I asked. The venue deposit was gone either way. The ring could be legally requested back. The joint wedding account needed to be separated carefully and documented immediately. Anything contributed by either family needed a clean paper trail. She told me what to save, what to print, what not to say in writing. I took notes the way I take notes in work meetings. Precise. Bulletproof. When the call ended, I stared at the wall for a long time. Then I stood up and made tea I never drank. Because there is something deeply unnatural about preparing for the funeral of your own future while the person who helped kill it is brushing her teeth in your bathroom.
Check.
That night, Lena came home smiling. She slipped off her heels by the door and groaned dramatically, rubbing one ankle. "Remind me never to wear these again." I looked up from the laptop. "You looked happy in them." She grinned. "Well, pain is easier when it's cute." Then she crossed the room, leaned over the back of the couch, and kissed the top of my head. That small gesture nearly broke me. Not because it meant anything, because it used to. That's the part people don't understand. The wound isn't always the lie. Sometimes it's the memory of what the lie is wearing. On day 7, Ethan came by with flowers. Not for me, for Lena. He said he'd been nearby and wanted to drop off some sample color swatches for the florist because he knew how stressed wedding planning could get. He said it while standing in my kitchen, smiling at me. My hand tightened so hard around my coffee mug I thought it might crack. Lena laughed and called him sweet. He looked at her for half a second too long. If I hadn't known, maybe I would have missed it. That was the maddening thing after the parking garage. Once you see one truth, suddenly all the old moments rearrange themselves. A glance becomes a pattern. A joke becomes a signal. A silence becomes an answer. I watched him set the flowers down on the counter like he belonged there, like he hadn't already turned my life into evidence. "Big week," he said. "For all of us." I smiled. "More than you know." He laughed softly, not understanding. And that was when I realized something strange. I wasn't waiting for them to confess. I was waiting for them to walk straight into a room they thought they controlled.
Which,
By day 8, I had all of it arranged. The original slideshow loaded. My addition cut into the final sequence. 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Parking garage footage. Timestamp visible. Their faces clear. Her hand in his. His car. Their hesitation. Their choice. I placed it directly after one of my favorite photos. A beach photo from the previous summer. The sun in our eyes. My head tilted toward his shoulder. Lena had taken that photo, which felt somehow like the kind of detail a cruel god would include for symmetry. Sometimes, late at night, I would sit on the couch after Lena had gone to sleep and ask myself the same question. Is this too much? Not morally in the abstract. Personally, For me. Would I be able to live with myself after this? Would I become the cold person they would later describe to others? The woman who humiliated her own sister in public. The woman who didn't even grant a private conversation. The woman who planned. That word stayed with me. Planned. Because they were right, in a way I already knew they would be. This was planned. Clinical almost. And maybe that scared me because it didn't feel like revenge the way movies teach you revenge is supposed to feel. It felt like architecture. Like building something load-bearing out of pain because collapsing in the middle of it wasn't an option. On day 9, my mother called to ask if I was excited for Saturday. I stood in the grocery store with a basket in one hand and my phone pressed to my ear, staring at avocados like they had personally offended me. I am, I said. You sound tired. Just busy. Well, she said warmly, you know your sister's been working so hard on this. She loves you so much. I closed my eyes. There are sentences that split you open without anyone meaning to. That was one of them. I know, I said. And in that moment, it was true in the worst possible way. I knew exactly how much she loved me. I knew the shape of it, the limits of it, the price of it. On day 10, Marcus showed up at my apartment unannounced with takeout and 2 bottles of soda. He was the only person in our family who had a talent for sensing disaster before it spoke out loud. He looked at me for half a second too long and frowned. You okay? I opened the door wider. Why wouldn't I be? He lifted one shoulder. You've got that face. What face? The one that says somebody should be worried, but you'd rather die than tell them why. I almost smiled. Almost. Instead, I took the takeout from his hands and let him in. We ate on the couch while Lena was out running errands. Marcus talked about work. His neighbor's dog. A ridiculous argument he'd overheard at a gas station. He didn't push, and I loved him for that. There are people who help by digging, and people who help by sitting beside you and keeping the world normal for one more hour. He belonged to the second kind. When he left, he squeezed my shoulder once at the door. Call me if you need me. I nodded. I didn't call. Not because I didn't need him, because I needed the room to stay sealed until Saturday. By day 11, I had become very good at pretending. That was the most disturbing part. How quickly a person can adapt to living beside a lie if there is a purpose attached to it. Lena was humming while she got ready that afternoon. Green dress, gold earrings, hair pinned back, then released, then pinned again because she couldn't decide which looked better. She stood in the bedroom doorway and smiled at me. Can you zip me? For 1 second, I just looked at her. At the familiar slope of her shoulders. At the sister who used to hold my hand crossing streets when I was little. At the girl who once punched a boy in middle school for making fun of my haircut. Memory is cruel like that. It never deletes the good before the bad arrives. It layers them. Makes you carry both. I walked over, pulled the zipper up carefully. Our eyes met in the mirror. Perfect, she said. Thanks. You look beautiful, I heard myself say. She smiled. So do you. And maybe that was the worst moment of all. Not the garage. Not the messages. That, 2 sisters in front of a mirror. One of them already gone. The other pretending not to know it yet. We arrived at the restaurant just before 7. Candles on the tables. Soft gold lighting. Flowers arranged low in the centerpieces. The projector screen glowing faintly at the front of the private room. Everything warm. Everything elegant. Everything ready. Lena walked in like she belonged in a celebration. Maybe she thought she did. Guests began to arrive in waves. Hugs. Laughter. The sound of glasses touching. My mother cried when she saw the room. My father told me it was beautiful. Lena moved from table to table, smiling, touching arms, receiving compliments, adjusting little details as though she were still capable of innocence. Then Ethan arrived. Navy suit, confident smile, a bottle of wine in one hand. He crossed the room and kissed me in front of everyone. A simple practice kiss, just long enough to look right. Hey, he murmured. You okay? I looked at him, really looked at him. At the man I had loved for 4 years. At the man who had sat across from me at breakfast while texting my sister at night. And I smiled. Better than okay. He smiled back. He thought I meant the dinner. He had no idea I meant the ending. Dinner began the way all celebrations begin. With noise, soft overlapping conversations, silverware against plates, wine being poured and refilled before anyone really noticed. 43 people in a room designed for happiness. And for a while, it worked. Lena's mother stood first. She held her glass with both hands, like she needed the steadiness. She spoke about Lena as a child, how she used to line up her dolls and pretend she was hosting dinners for them, how she always took care of people, how proud she was. Her voice broke halfway through. I can't wait to officially call Naomi my daughter. The room softened. People smiled. Someone reached for a napkin. I nodded and thanked her. And I meant it, because none of this was her fault. That kind of innocence deserves to be acknowledged, even when everything else is about to collapse. Then my father raised his glass. Short. Simple. He has always been a man who doesn't waste words. Love is a commitment, he said. And I hope you both remember that when it's not easy. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because of how precisely it landed. Like a line written for a moment he didn't know he was in. Ethan squeezed my hand under the table. Warm. Familiar. Possessive in a way that used to feel grounding. Now it just felt rehearsed. Halfway through dinner, Lena stood to say something. Of course she did. She was glowing. Radiant in a way that made people lean toward her. My sister, she began, smiling at me like we shared something real, has always been the strongest person I know. I held her gaze. Let her speak. Let her build it. She's the kind of woman who makes you feel safe just by being in the room. And Ethan, you're lucky. Really lucky. A soft murmur of agreement moved through the tables. She lifted her glass. To love and to choosing each other every day. Glasses rose, clinked, and for a brief second, everything looked exactly like it was supposed to. Then I stood up. I just want to say a few words, I said. The room quieted immediately. 43 people turning their attention toward me. The soft hum of anticipation. The kind of silence that expects something warm, something grateful, something easy. I smiled. I've been thinking a lot about the last 4 years. I let my eyes move across the room slowly, taking them in. Every face. Every person who believed they were here to celebrate something whole. About what it means to build a life with someone, I continued. To trust them, to let them see you clearly. Ethan looked up at me, smiling. Lena, too. Neither of them moved. Not yet. I've learned a lot recently, I said. That the people closest to you, I paused, just long enough, are the ones who shape you the most. Still smiling. Still calm. But something in my tone shifted. Subtle. Sharp. Like a thread being pulled tight. And I want to thank Ethan, I added, turning slightly toward him. He straightened, almost proud, like this was his moment, for being exactly who you are. A few people laughed softly, thinking it was affection. And Lena, I said, meeting her eyes. My sister. She smiled wider, unaware, for always being there for me. That part was true. In a way she would understand too late. I picked up the remote. The slideshow Lena put together is beautiful, I said. It tells the story better than I ever could. I gestured toward the screen. Let's take a look. The lights dimmed slightly. The first image appeared. A beach. Sunlight. 2 people laughing into the wind. Then another. A birthday. Candles. My hand resting on Ethan's shoulder. A third. A random Tuesday morning. Coffee cups. Bare feet on hardwood floors. Moments. Fragments. Proof that something had once been real. The room softened again. People leaned in. Some smiled. Some wiped at their eyes. Because that's what memories do when they're arranged correctly. They convince you the story is simple. By the 3rd slide, Lena's mother was crying again. By the 5th, someone whispered, "This is so beautiful." By the 7th, Ethan squeezed my hand once more, like we were still inside the same future. Then the last photo appeared. The beach, her head on his shoulder. My favorite one. Chet. There was a 2-second pause. Normal. Expected. Then the screen changed. A parking garage. Grainy. Yellow light. Timestamp in the corner. It took a second, maybe 2, for the room to understand what they were looking at. Then the elevator doors opened, and 2 people walked out, holding hands. The shift didn't happen loudly. That's the part I remember most. It didn't explode. It collapsed. Silently, 43 people realizing the same truth at the same time. Someone inhaled sharply. A chair creaked. A fork hit a plate and wasn't picked up again. Lena made a sound. Small. Broken. Like something had slipped out of her before she could stop it. Ethan stood up so quickly his chair scraped back against the floor. Naomi. I didn't look at him. I watched the screen. 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Every second of it. Their hesitation. Their choice. Their ease. Their routine. Because that's what it was. Routine. The video ended. The room stayed still. Like no one trusted their body to move yet. I closed the laptop. The click sounded louder than it should have. I won't be getting married, I said. My voice was steady. Clear. No tremor. No hesitation. The venue deposit is non-refundable. A few people blinked, trying to catch up. I've already spoken to a lawyer about the rest of the financials. Ethan stared at me, like I had become someone he didn't recognize. The ring will be returned by end of business Monday. Lena was crying now. Not loudly. Just leaking, like something inside her had come undone. I hope everyone here has a safe drive home. No shouting. No accusations. No names thrown like weapons. Just facts. I picked up my jacket, slid my phone into my pocket, and walked out.
Pass.
Behind me, the room stayed suspended for a few seconds longer. Then the noise came. Voices, questions, shock breaking into sound. Net. But I didn't turn around. Because the truth had already done everything it needed to do. I made it to my car before my hands started shaking. Not violently, just enough. A tremor that moved through my fingers like my body was finally catching up to something my mind had already decided. I sat there for a minute, keys in my hand, breathing slow, controlled, like if I kept everything measured, nothing would spill over. My phone rang before I even pulled out of the parking lot. My mother, I answered. She was crying. Not at me, just crying. I didn't know, she said. I know, I replied, and I meant that too. Some people carry guilt that doesn't belong to them. She was one of those people. What do I do about Lena? She asked. The question hung there, heavy, complicated. I can't answer that for you, I said quietly. That's between you and her. A pause. Then I added softer. My only request is that you don't ask me to be in the same room as her. She inhaled sharply. I won't. She kept that promise. My father called the next morning. 3 words. I'm sorry, Naomi. That was all. And somehow it was enough. There are people who try to fix things with too many sentences. My father understood that some things aren't fixable, only acknowledged. I'm not going to tell you how to feel, he said after a moment. I love both of you. That's going to have to be enough for now. It is, I said. And it was. Not easy, but fair. Marcus showed up at my door the next morning at 9 a.m. Exactly, holding 2 bags of breakfast food like he had prepared for a small army. He didn't say anything dramatic, didn't ask questions, just walked in, set the food down, and sat on the couch like he belonged there, which he did. We ate in silence for a while. Then he said, I was at the dinner. I know. You handled it. Not well. Not badly. Just handled it. I nodded. That's all I had in me. He glanced at me once. Yeah, he said. I figured. He didn't stay long. Just long enough. That's the thing about people who truly show up. They don't overstay their usefulness. They arrive exactly when needed and leave before they become something else. The messages from Ethan started that night and didn't stop. 19 days. I know because I saved them. Not because I wanted to read them again. Because my lawyer had said one thing very clearly. Documentation matters. The first messages were shock. He couldn't believe I had done it like that. Public. In front of everyone. Humiliating. That word came up a lot. Humiliating. I noticed something. Not once did he start with, I'm sorry. Then came the explanations. It had only been 4 months. It didn't mean anything. It was a mistake. He loved me. He just got confused. There's always a version where the betrayal shrinks itself into something temporary, something manageable, something forgivable, if you just understand the context. I didn't respond. Not once. I read each message exactly 1 time. Then I turned my phone face down and continued my day. The third phase was anger. I had embarrassed him. Embarrassed Lena. Embarrassed both families. I had planned it. Sat across from them for 11 days, knowing everything. That part, he wasn't wrong about. It was planned, and I had sat there, smiling, nodding, existing beside them like nothing had shifted. My therapist later called it controlled execution. She asked me if I had ever considered confronting them privately. I did, I said. And I needed it to be unarguable. She wrote something down, then looked at me. That makes sense, she said, but it also means you were more focused on being right than on being free. That sentence stayed with me. It still does, because she wasn't wrong. But she wasn't entirely right either. Some truths don't come in clean categories. Lena didn't message me as much. A few texts. Short. Careful. I didn't mean for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. I don't know how it got this far. That last one almost made me respond. Almost. Because things don't get that far. They're taken there. Step by step. Choice by choice. But I didn't reply. Silence was the only thing I had left that still belonged entirely to me. The practical parts resolved quickly. Because I had prepared. The venue deposit was gone. I had accepted that before the dinner even started. Some prices you decide to pay in advance. The joint account was separated cleanly. Every transaction documented. Every contribution accounted for. Her family's money returned. Mine secured. No arguments. No confusion. Just paperwork. The ring came back on Monday. Delivered by Lena. She stood at the door. Didn't step inside. Didn't try to explain anything. She just held it out. I took it. Thank you, I said. She nodded. Left. That was the last time I saw her. The apartment was in my name. She had 30 days. She moved out in 18. Took what was hers. Left what was mine. We divided a life like it was furniture, object by object, memory by memory, until nothing overlapped anymore. On day 19, I changed the locks. Not because she tried to come back, because I needed something physical to mark the end. The locksmith took 20 minutes. I tipped him. He left, and I stood there, holding new keys, in the same apartment, with a completely different life. That was 14 months ago. But now, the couch is in a different place now. New coffee table. The rug she picked is gone. Not out of anger, out of necessity. Sometimes you have to change the space so your mind stops replaying the same scenes in the corners. My parents are still figuring it out. How to love two daughters who don't speak. My father handles it quietly. My mother, less so. She tries. She slips sometimes. I forgive her, because her pain isn't something she chose. Lena and I haven't spoken. Not once. 14 months of silence. A decision I haven't undone. Not because I can't. Because I'm not ready. Maybe I will be someday. Maybe I won't. Both feel possible. Ethan called once, 3 days after the dinner. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Said he was sorry. Said he knew it wasn't enough. Said he loved me. That word sounded different coming from him. Like it had lost something essential. I deleted the voicemail. Then I blocked his number. People ask me sometimes if I regret the dinner. The answer has changed over time. At first it was no. Immediate. Sharp. Then it became maybe. Now? I don't regret the dinner. I regret the 11 days. Not because of what it did to them. Because of what it required from me. The pretending. The performance. That cost something. But the dinner? That wasn't healing. It wasn't closure in the emotional sense. It was a door. Closing. Clean. Final. The real work came after. The therapy. The quiet mornings. The rebuilding of a life that didn't include either of them. There's someone new now. I won't say much about him. Because this isn't his story. He knows enough. He didn't ask for details. Just listened. Then said, "That sounds like it was really hard." And changed the subject, which was exactly what I needed. 2 weeks ago, I brought breakfast to his apartment. Bagels. Coffee. We sat on the fire escape. Watched the street below. Didn't talk much. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something simple. Not relief. Not survival. Just peace. That was the part I didn't expect. That one day, the parking garage would just be a place again. The dinner just a moment. Not the center of everything. 14 months. New locks. New space. New silence. Some stories don't end with forgiveness or reconciliation. Some stories end with understanding. That not every person who hurts you was always your enemy. Some of them were just people you loved first. And that's what makes it heavy. But also, what makes it possible to finally put it down. Everything after that night, that's mine.